The greatest threat to gratitude isn't a lack of blessings, it's the roadblocks in your heart. It was late in the evening one night and the sun was already down, rain was coming in, and I had just finished unloading some props for the church down the road. We were closing up the trailer when a man pulled up beside us. He had a back seat full of kids and he said, "Excuse me, I need some gas to get across town, but I left my wallet at home." He even glanced in the back to show us that the kids were there, just to prove that he was telling the truth, and I believed him. I reached into my wallet and I found I only had one bill, a $5 bill. I handed it to him and said, "Here, this should get you across town." He looked at it, almost offended by the $5 bill, and he said, "Is this all you've got?" He rolled up his window, shook his head, and peeled out the parking lot like I insulted him. At our house, we have a simple saying: you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. He wasn't family, but he needed to hear it. Maybe he thought I had more on me. Maybe he expected more from me. Either way, that moment is a picture of how many of us respond to God when His gifts don't match what we want. God's pockets are infinitely deep. He's generous, He's kind, and yet so often we respond with ingratitude and we drive away in frustration. Now, God expects His people to be thankful. We've already talked about how gratitude begins with grace and grows through faith, but faith also has to guard what it gives, because even people who have received mercy can lose sight of it. We see that in the story of the 10 lepers. They cried out to Jesus, "Have mercy on us." They were outside the city because the law required people with skin disease to live outside the camp. Leprosy didn't just make you sick, it isolated you. It symbolized defilement. So Jesus tells these 10 men to go show yourselves to the priests. In other words, you're healed. Go back into the camp. And as they went, they were cleansed. One man notices and he stops. He turns around, runs back to Jesus, praises God, falls at His feet, and gives thanks. The others, well, they just keep walking. They received mercy but missed fellowship. They accepted the gift but forgot the giver. Their bodies were healed, but their hearts stayed cold. And so Jesus then asks, weren't 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? It's a question that echoes through every generation. How many of us enjoy God's blessings but forget to show Him gratitude? And if we're honest, we do this all the time. God restores our health, but we move on. He heals our relationships, but we forget them. He brings us joy again, and then we sprint back into life with our blessings in hand, but no thankfulness in our hearts. So why do we do that? Why do we withhold gratitude from the one who gives every good thing? Scripture says giving thanks is God's will for us. His grace abounds in us. We can give thanks. We should give thanks. Gratitude should flow naturally from a heart fueled with joy and peace, but often it doesn't. The truth is, gratitude has roadblocks, and if we don't watch out for them, they'll completely shut down a thankful heart. Let me walk you through some common ones. Selfishness. Anyone who's had kids knows this. We come into the world wanting and whining, and if we're not careful, we can grow into adult versions of the same thing. A selfish heart makes everything about me. But Scripture says, do nothing from selfish ambition, but count others more significant than yourselves. Jesus Himself prayed, "Father, remove this cup, yet not my will, but yours." A selfish heart can't be a thankful heart. Worldliness. Worldliness is when your life starts matching the priorities of the world. Possessions, pursuits, popularity. When the right now becomes all you can see, you lose sight of eternity. Paul says, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. Gratitude dies when the world fills your vision. Criticalness. We all know critical people, and most of us have been critical people. It's the glass half empty mindset. That's exactly what fueled the Israelites in the wilderness. God saved them and fed them and protected them, and they still grumbled, because a critical spirit speaks the native language of ingratitude. Impatience. We live in a culture of hurry. Everything has to happen now. And when God doesn't work on our timeline, we get irritated. James says, be patient until the coming of the Lord. Patience receives, impatience demands. A demanding heart won't be a grateful one. Disappointment. Sometimes we get upset simply because God didn't meet the expectations we created for Him. Wrong expectations lead to wrong conclusions. Proverbs says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Disappointment exposes where our expectations were misplaced. Coldness. Spiritual numbness is one of the easiest gratitude killers. When God's blessings become normal, our worship becomes dull. Our quiet time feels dry. Our hearts lose their fire. Romans says, be fervent in spirit. And so a numb heart doesn't feel gratitude. Rebellion. A rebellious heart resists God. And when you resist God, you can't rejoice in God. The Israelites, you might remember, in the wilderness, rebelled because they first forgot. Rebellion can't be grateful to the God it's running from, which leads to the next one, forgetfulness. Sometimes we're not ungrateful, we're just forgetful. And that's not innocent, it's careless. Scripture says, take care lest you forget the Lord your God. Gratitude requires intentional memory. A forgetting heart is an ungrateful heart. Entitlement. Entitlement says, I deserve this. But Paul asks, what do you have that you did not receive? If you think you deserve something, you'll never be grateful for anything. Comparison. Comparing kills contentment. He doesn't deserve that. Why is theirs better than mine? If your eyes are always on someone else's blessings, you'll never appreciate your own. Blindness. Sometimes we just don't see what God is giving. Hard circumstances can blind us to good blessings. Like the hospital bill can overshadow the healing, or the flood in the house can overshadow the closeness of the family. Scripture says, open my eyes. A blind heart can't be a grateful heart. Doubt. You may know Romans 8:28 by heart, but doubt God's ability to actually bring good from your situation. Doubt questions God's goodness, and doubt darkens gratitude. Finally, disbelief. Some people can't give thanks because they don't actually know the God they're supposed to be thankful to. Without Christ having saving grace, gratitude has no root. For the Christian, ingratitude is out of place. The Israelites in the wilderness forgot God, doubted Him, grumbled, and rebelled. And their story is a warning to us. We're called to do all things without grumbling, so we can shine as lights in a dark world. The 9 lepers walked away healed in their bodies, but empty in their hearts. Only one turned back. Only one cleared the roadblocks, pride, hurry, self-interest, and chose gratitude. Every day we face the same choice. So stay alert, watch for the hindrances, clear the roadblocks, because when you do, the Spirit warms your heart again and gratitude comes alive. Hey, if this has been helpful to you, please subscribe so you know about future videos. Also, I want to tell you about my new book, Grateful Again, where I unpack this and other aspects of gratitude in order to stir up the exercise of Thanksgiving in your life. I provided a link to the book and other resources in the show notes below. I'll see you in the next video.